One play. One play is all it took to change this player's career forever. They say everything happens for a reason, that the hardest things in life help make people stronger. Well, for Gabriel Landeskog, these sentiments could not align more perfectly. This will likely be the third straight regular season missed by the Colorado Avalanche captain, following a lingering right knee injury that has kept him off the ice since he hoisted the Stanley Cup back in 2022. Landeskog has been placed on LTIR since his surgery back in 2023 when he underwent a cartilage transplant procedure. While this type of surgery has been done in other sports, most recently on famous NBA player Lonzo Ball, it has never been done prior to Landeskog in the NHL, and the certainty of him getting back on the ice with the Avalanche has been up in the air ever since. Well, recently, through documentaries and reports, there have been some updates regarding the status of Gabriel Landeskog's injuries and his health. So today, let's break down the story of Gabriel Landeskog, his early career, his leadership and rise to success, and how this previously mentioned one play flipped his entire world upside down in just one swift moment. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks to a lot of recent requests and some of the news that has come out through a docu-series and some reports, I think this episode is very long overdue here on this channel, and that's the story of Gabriel Landeskog. Now, the last time we saw Landeskog suit up with the Colorado Avalanche was during their Cup run in 2022, where he finished off an impressive playoff performance by raising the Stanley Cup. But since then, he hasn't stepped foot on the ice, and that's because of a pretty serious injury that he sustained all the way back in his bubble run of 2020. So today, let's break down the story of Landeskog from his early days in the NHL to this pretty severe injury that changed his entire career forever. But before we get into this video, I would love to hear some feedback on some stuff that you guys would like to see in the future. Do you guys like these deep dives into players and teams, and what are some other topics you would like to see here on this channel? If you have a player or a story that you're very fond of and you would like to know more about, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. But with all of that being said, let's get into today's episode on Gabriel Landeskog. Let's take a journey all the way back to 2011. With the second overall pick in the NHL draft, the Colorado Avalanche would select Swedish forward Gabriel Landeskog. From day one, Landy was seen as an incredible talent, who had the makings to be a skillful player for the organization. But at the same time, something that really separated him from other prospects that year was his maturity, and that was something that was well beyond his years. In just his rookie season, his impact was instantly felt. He accumulated 52 points in 82 games played with a plus 20 on the year. His game wasn't all that flashy, but it was precise. He had the ability to play at a high level so early on, and this was just a testament to the work that he had put in prior to being drafted. Just 1 year later, at the age of 19, the Colorado Avalanche would make Landeskog the youngest full-time captain in NHL history at the time. This was a statement. A declaration that this young man, still finding his own way in the league, was the future of the franchise. The weight of a C on your sweater can be heavy, especially in a market like Denver at the time. The Avalanche fan base was yearning for a return to the glory days. For years, Colorado was rebuilding, waiting to get themselves back into a position where they could compete for cups again. And Landeskog was just a start. The Avalanche over the past decade or so have accumulated some seriously talented players. Some who stayed with the organization, and some who unfortunately left. But when looked at in the grand scheme of things, the Avalanche have found themselves some pretty elite players nearly at every position. 2009, 2013, 2015, and 2017 are just a few years where the Avalanche have hit things out of the park with their drafting. Slowly, the Avalanche began to rise, surrounding Landeskog with a core of exceptional talent. McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Duchesne, dawning a new era in Colorado. The Avalanche became a dominant force in the NHL. Year after year, they pushed deeper into the playoffs, the team was stacked, the chemistry was electric, and the hunger for a championship was very, very evident. Following all of these incredible draft years, the Colorado Avalanche continued to build on their culture. Year after year, it felt like the team was getting better, and year after year, they became more of a powerhouse. With guys like McKinnon showing their elite talent, Rantanen becoming a top-end scorer, and Cale Makar being the best defenseman of this generation, the Avs were set up to potentially build a dynasty, and at the center of it all was Gabriel Landeskog. But this is where things began to become problematic for the player. In 2020, during a bubble run during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a freak incident that occurred, changing the trajectory of not only Landeskog's career, but the potential dynasty for the Colorado Avalanche. Before we get into what happened during the 2020 season, I think it's important that we fast forward to 2022, the year that etched itself into Avalanche history, the year where they finally climbed the summit and achieved their ultimate goal, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game after game, series after series, the Avalanche steamrolled over their competition, and leading the charge was their captain, Landeskog. He was so instrumental during that playoff run, and averaged over a point per game pace throughout the entire postseason. After beating the previous Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, and lifting the Stanley Cup above his head, it felt like there was a moment of pure triumph for Landeskog. After such a long journey, he realized his dream and had nothing left to prove to the hockey world. But even in victory, life can take some pretty unexpected turns. And despite having this triumphant moment and being at the top of the world, there was something brewing in Landeskog's future that would change everything. Just weeks after hoisting the Stanley Cup, news broke. Gabriel Landeskog would undergo yet another knee surgery. And this is something we need to rewind all the way back to 2020 to fully understand. During a freak play, Cale Makar was bumped off the puck, falling forward when a skate blade sliced back into the knee of Gabriel Landeskog, causing cartilage damage. What was initially thought to be a short-term setback became a years-long ordeal. During that run, Landeskog would drain his knee of excess fluids to help deal with the discomfort, something he did for years until realizing that there was a bigger problem at hand. Like many hockey players, injuries were not to be discussed during playoff runs. Go until you can't go no more is the mentality you need to have to hoist the best trophy in sports, which is exactly what Landeskog did. Now, for those who have never had a knee injury, sometimes what can happen is your knee can just swell up, causing discomfort, but not preventing you from doing the things that you need to do when it comes to sports. And in Gabriel Landeskog's case, it seemed like this knee injury was going to be manageable, especially with the Avalanche being in their championship window. It felt important for him to be on the ice and support his team. But fast forward a season or two, the discomfort continued to grow, leaving him with very few alternatives for him to take care of this knee injury and get back on the ice fully healthy. Eventually, dealing with this sort of injury throughout the entire year just didn't seem worth it to Landeskog if he wanted to play his best hockey, leading to this surgery that had a lot of uncertainties but felt like the only option for Gabriel Landeskog to turn to if he wanted to get back to the peak of his career. Post-2020, Landeskog would undergo 4 different procedures before ultimately resorting to a cartilage transplant that he understood would sideline him for at least a year. But what exactly is a cartilage transplant? A cartilage transplant, also known as a cartilage restoration or cartilage repair surgery, is a procedure that aims to restore damaged cartilage in a joint such as a knee by replacing or stimulating the growth of new cartilage tissue. Now, according to an article done by The Post, there were 3 doctors that were interviewed regarding Landeskog's surgery and what his future might entail. Now, the leading consensus on the cartilage transplant was that it was the best route forward for Landeskog given his injury, but the modernity of the procedure and the lack of data suggesting the effectiveness for athletes returning to the physical heightened demands of the NHL makes it difficult for anyone to determine the eventual impact on Landeskog's game or when he could return. So fast forward to today, all of the reports were suggesting that this was the year for Landeskog to return. But outside of a few videos that have leaked of him at practice, or some reports saying that he was going to return at some point, we have no real evidence that Landeskog is fully healthy or will be back with the team for the playoffs. But unfortunately, this is just what we're going to have to go off of. Until he finally gets back on the ice, we can only speculate and hope that this player can be fully healthy and play at the same peak that he had been in 2022. But overall, this is just the story of Gabriel Landeskog, how he climbed that mountain became one of the more successful players in 2022, leading his team to a Stanley Cup, until ultimately never stepping back on the ice because of a pretty serious injury. Again, we'll have to see how the timeline of his return looks when he's finally fully healthy, but according to these orthopedic doctors, there is just no evidence to show us anything. So let me know when you guys think Gabriel Landeskog will return to the Avalanche, what you think about his story, and how far you think the Avalanche are going to go in this year's playoff run with or without Landeskog. Again, like I mentioned at the top of the video, if you want to see some more player profiles or team profile videos, drop your thoughts in the comments below about what you want to see next. And make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Again, thank you guys as always for watching the content. I will see you guys in the next episode.